I did say at the time when it was looking like Arsenal were serious about him that I thought it'd be a risky move for him. I thought, and I still do think he's quite raw. I think he's still got a lot of learning to do. I think he needs room to grow into the player that he's going to be. So, and I guess what I'm trying to say is he's not the finished product. Now, the interesting thing about Newcastle and Manchester United is that I think both those clubs are obviously in the process of developing and trying to get back to that kind of top. Manchester United obviously trying to get back to that top level, but Newcastle trying to reach that top level. And I think actually he'd probably be a good fit at both clubs, to be honest with you. Newcastle are in desperate need of a Alexander Isak replacement sooner rather than later. And I think he kind of fits a lot of the kind of same characteristics as Isak. Big number 9, very fast, happy to run over the back of a high line, good in the air, physical, can take defenders on. He's got a very similar profile to Alexander Isak, I would say. So, and I think he'd be a great replacement for him. But also at Newcastle, he would have time to grow. He's not going to have a title challenging season thrust upon his shoulders. And I think Eddie Howe's a great head coach who knows how to develop young players in England. So I think he'd work very well there. Similarly, at Manchester United, they're in desperate need of a striker. Obviously, they got Rasmus Højlund, who's had to come out 3 or 4 times this summer and say he's not leaving the club, despite constant speculation. He might have every intention of staying at Man United, but I think Man United also have every intention of trying to sign another striker because they can't go another season hoping that he or Joshua Zirkzee can kind of be their main talisman. So I think if Man United were to sign him, he'd go straight into that team, straight in at number 9. And again, he'd probably be given a degree of goodwill to try and get up to speed with things and to develop there, because obviously Manchester United aren't really a team who are expecting to kind of challenge the top 4 next season. They'll certainly hope to, but they're not expected to. The question is, Manu, whether he actually wants to go to either of these clubs, because we saw obviously Hugo Ekitike turn down Newcastle. Now that might have just been because he knew Liverpool were coming, which is understandable. But he might take a look at what he's got at Leipzig and say, well, I had all these clubs interested in me this summer, and if I do even better at Leipzig next season, bigger clubs or those same big clubs might come back and be a bit more serious next year. Whereas if I go to Manchester United in 12 months' time, I could be just like Rasmus Højlund, struggling in a dysfunctional team. Or he can go to Newcastle. I like I said, I think Eddie Howe's a very good head coach. I think he does very well with players, but he might say, in terms of the overall grand scheme of my career, how's that any different from RB Leipzig? Because I would just be using Newcastle as a stepping stone. And, he can do that at Leipzig anyway. So I think the question isn't whether they'd be good for him. I think they would. I think the question is, well, will he want to go or not? And whether he needs to go or not. And I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens.